Hello, hello, lovely people. It is Melissa Santana, your co-host of the Ms. Texas Show. I'm even gonna shout out to Eileen right there. Hey, as you can see. And so I just want to welcome everyone to the first edition of Melissa's Corner. So you have been hearing from a lot of different guests. You have been seeing me interview some amazing people. But now I want to be able to talk to you myself because I haven't seen y'all in a while on a one-on-one basis. So I just want to be able to check in, but also bring awareness to something that is taking place this month. If we were not already aware, it is absolutely Human Trafficking Awareness Month. That is what January is for. Eileen is an amazing champion in that area. She brings incredible awareness to it, and has a lot of conversation, holds a lot of efforts, and is a part of a very big movement. But also January is Stalking Awareness Month. I don't know if you knew that. That might be new information for you, but it is also Stalking Awareness Month. As someone who used to work on a college campus, as someone who has advocated for survivors of sexual assaults, I also really care deeply about this issue just as much as other issues that are out there. And so it's definitely one. It also goes hand in hand many times with domestic violence. And so there are a lot of victims who are stalked, who unfortunately are also involved in domestically violent relationships. A lot of them actually go hand in hand. They're not like separate issues. And unfortunately, some people are going through those issues at the very same time. So I wanted to bring a little bit of awareness to it, but also educate you a little bit more on it in case you didn't already know about the topic. And so with that, formal welcome to myself. So I actually wanted to share a little something about me and about the topic. And so hello again, Melissa Santana. I am also, in case everybody does not know, because like I said, I don't always get a chance to talk about myself. I am actually a full-time family support specialist. So I am located at a school. So I focus on and specialize in being able to connect families to resources. So if I can ever be in need to any viewers out there for other issues offline, I would love to be of assistance and be able to help. I also happen to be a bilingual peer education coordinator. So that means that sí, hablo español, así que para todos que hablan español, yo estoy disponible y aquí también para todas sus necesidades, respuestas, comentarios, o lo que necesitan. So I am a bilingual peer education coordinator. It does mean that I'm bilingual when I speak Spanish, but it also means that I actually happen to educate on issues of sexual health. And so that's something that I also do in addition to being a mom, in addition to being in grad school, because I'm actually also in grad school for those who might not know. And so a couple things that I do in addition to this Miss Texas Show situation. But I actually love all the topics that we touch on the Miss Texas Show. And so I always appreciate any and all opportunities to help with the show, to interview guests on the show, and to connect with all of you all. So I always appreciate any and all those opportunities. And so with that being said, like I mentioned, it is Stalking Awareness Month. It is actually the 2022, January 2022 of this year marks the 18th annual Stalking Awareness Month. So it's actually been around for 18 years. It also means that it's still young in existence, but still old enough that it's been around for over a decade. So for those who might not have known about it, don't feel bad. It's not like it's been around for centuries, but at the same time, if it's new information for you, awesome. And if it's a review, great. Let's continue to have the conversation. 1 in 6 women actually, and 1 in 17 men experience stalking in their lifetimes. I have taken a lot of my information from SPARK, which is the Stalking Prevention Awareness and Resource Center. If you don't already know about them, they're amazing. They also have their own Instagram page, and so you can definitely get a lot of great information there from them in general, and definitely about stalking. But so 1 in 6 women and 1 in 17 men, that is very common, unfortunately. It's definitely an unfortunate statistics, but it does mean that, so yeah, stalking is actually a lot more common than we realize. We might see it a little bit too, like there are some shows that kind of have traction with it. So I know there's You on Netflix, which I even happen to watch as well, which does talk about stalking and brings some interesting topic and viewpoint into the area of stalking. Of course, it's not necessarily an educational show, so you might not be able to learn as much, but it actually does shed some light. So you're able to see some tactics that stalkers do use because Joe, definitely uses a lot of tactics in that show. Hope I'm saying his name right. I actually haven't watched it in a while, but definitely uses some tactics in it. So it's just definitely an interesting show to be able to bring some awareness, or to actually have that conversation about stalking. So it's definitely happening. But what exactly is stalking? If we don't know, I'm here to tell you. According to the U.S. Department of Justice, the term stalking actually means engaging in a course of conduct directed at a specific person that would cause a reasonable person to fear for his or her safety or their safety or the safety of others, or suffer substantial emotional distress. I myself use she, her pronouns, by the way. And so I want to also make it known that when we're talking about stalking, it can be for any individual, any person. Like I said, that, but is the specific word here is that they fear for their safety. So that is a big thing here. So it's a person that engages in a course of conduct directed at a specific person. They have a specific person in mind that they do stalk, that they do harass, but it also causes that person to fear for their safety. I have often, as a person who also specializes in violence prevention with all of the work that I do, I often get asked, how do you know when it goes from an unhealthy situation or from a healthy situation to an unhealthy? When is it that the person crosses the line? When is it that that boundary is ignored? And I will definitely say that right here with the whole fear for safety, that is where that line gets crossed. Because if someone does not feel that they are safe, if someone feels that their peace is being threatened, that is when the line is being crossed, and that is when we are now approaching unhealthy territory. So that is definitely a question that I get asked very often. And when it comes to stalking, no different. This is how this can take place. And it is absolutely an example of violence as a result. So what does stalking exactly look like? Like, what exactly constitutes stalking? What does stalking include? What's in it? It really means making any threats against someone, against that person's family, against their friends. Sometimes stalkers do have valuable, unfortunately, ammunition that they can use against a person. So they may have pictures that a person holds near and dear to them, that they might threaten to show to everyone. It could be that they have very intimate details that they know about that person, and it could be, just intimate information that they have. And so they might make threats to, like I said, share that information, to harm individuals in that person's family, to harm that person directly. And so that definitely happens. It's also non-consensual communication, when that person does not want to take part in the communication. So this person is communicating with them, but they do not want to be communicated with. So it could be repeated phone calls, blowing up somebody's phone. I remember when I was in high school, we would talk about like, oh, he was like blowing up my phone. He must really like me. I'm using he only because I am a cisgender female, and I know that we would often use that word. So we would often refer to other males and say that, oh, it was really great when he would do that. However, when blowing up someone's phone of any gender is not okay. So honestly, that's not necessarily a form of flattery. When I say blowing up the phone, that means calling that person repeatedly more than once. And so even if they do not respond, you keep calling. So unfortunately, that is an example of non-consensual communication. It's not flattery. It's actually something that can definitely qualify as harassment. Is definitely under the realm of stalking. It also can be unwanted emails, text messages, and gifts. So sometimes too, it can be very confusing for the person getting stalked when they have, they're receiving gifts. It seems like that person is very charming, but when they continue to give gifts to that person that they do not want and they have not asked for, that definitely can be a cause for concern. It's also concerning when someone's being stalked and they get gifts from someone and then they become aware that that person knows where they live. None of that is safe, and none of that is okay, and none of that should be taking place. Nobody deserves for that to be happening. It can also be repeated physical or visual closeness, like waiting for someone to arrive at a certain location, following them around, watching them from a distance. A lot of those things, all of those things also qualify as stalking behaviors. It's also any other behavior used to contact, harass, track someone, threaten someone, using tracking devices. Sometimes too, we actually track ourselves when we use location services, and we are absolutely in our right to use those location services. It's just that we just need to know that when we use those location services, there are other people that can tap into them. And so, and when individuals do that, for example, when someone was in a relationship with someone, and they had shared accounts and they continue to access that account after the relationship has ended, that's another example of non-consensual use that they're doing. So they did not ask for permission to do that. They should have no longer had access. But that can be another way, or using location serving devices to track where someone is at all times of the day. So a lot of this I got from rain.org, which is also another organization that dedicates themselves to, bringing awareness to these issues. You can definitely go there to find out more information yourself. But some other things I want to be able to share with you in regards to stalking. All stalkers can be dangerous. On average, intimate partner stalkers actually pose the greatest risk. So when we say intimate partner, that means someone that you might have already been in an intimate relationship with. And sometimes, yes, this is absolutely a romantic relationship. It can also be a friend, however, maybe somebody that you're just in close contact with. But most of the stalking offenders are intimate partners. So that means somebody that you are in a some kind of relationship with, most likely romantic. And that could be a current partner that you're in a relationship with, or it could be a former partner, meaning an ex or someone that you are no longer in a relationship with. 50% of those individuals are the ones that often cause the stalking or are committing the stalking. The rest are made up of acquaintances, strangers, family, people of authority. But as you can see, it's definitely a lot of people you may know. So a big myth is that, stalking is that weird, creepy person in the alley, or it's someone that, we have never met. It's not. It's usually somebody that does know you. They have access to you, they had access to you, or they still do. And so unfortunately, they take advantage of that and continue to stalk from, close by or from afar. 2 years is the average duration of intimate partner stalking. Two entire years. So for unwanted contact to be taking place. And so unfortunately, if that's the average, that means that there are some stalking situations that take place way longer than that. And there might be some that take place for less than that. But the average is 2 years. That is an incredibly long time for someone to have all this kind of unwanted contact and to unfortunately be tracked by someone that they do not want to be tracked by. So it's definitely a very unfortunate thing that happens. We already learned that it's also very common, but now we're also learning that it can take place for a long period of time, more time than we have ever asked. Victims of intimate partner stalking also have more separation attempts than victims of intimate partner violence alone. So many of them have tried to leave or to try to stop the stalking from happening, but unfortunately the stalker has continued. So it's not that people also, another question that gets asked is, why don't people just leave these situations? Why would they stay? What is it that they did for this to occur? A lot of these questions, I'm not going to say that they might not have the best intentions behind them, but I'll just say that when we ask those questions, we might not understand all of the background and context of a situation. Individuals may have tried, they may have been used a lot of different attempts, but unfortunately, when there are abusers and offenders out there, they don't care about the attempts that people are taking place. They only care to offend and continue to inflict abuse. And so unfortunately, they don't care what attempts are happening. They continue to do what they want. And in this case, if it's stalking, they will find a way to continue. It's also underreported. So much like sexual abuse, stalking is also very underreported as well. So unfortunately, there are many rapes that go underreported to the police. There are many attacks that go underreported to the police. Stalking is no different. Fewer than 40% of stalking cases are actually go to the police. And fewer than 25% of sexual assault cases, as you'll see, also go to the police. So yes, there's definitely a parallel there. So it may be a higher number. There might be more stalking cases that might actually get reported, but it's still too few of a number. Many people do not report it to the police. And for fear, maybe for not wanting, because of threats that they may have been receiving, for any number of reasons, but it is underreported. It's also very traumatic for all those involved. 13% of sexual assault victims actually lose time from work. And over 12% of stalking victims also lose time from work. So there is a lot of parallels that you'll find between sexual abuse and stalking, just like I also mentioned that it can also co-occurring with domestic violence. So there are a lot of people in domestic violent relationships that are being stalked. There are people in sexually abusive relationships that are also being stalked. And a lot of them do lose time from work because unfortunately the person continues to harass them while they're at work. Some of them actually lose their jobs as a result of it, or they at least lose time from it, either way. So the risk is definitely there. The other thing is that stalking can also occur by sexual orientation. And so 1 in 3 bisexual women and 1 in 14 bisexual men will also unfortunately be the victim of stalking. It does happen. When it comes to lesbians or those who identify as gay, 1 in 5 lesbian women or gay women will be stalked, and 1 in 9 gay males or that identify that way will also be the victims of stalking as well. So they unfortunately run that risk of being stalked, of being a stalking victim, and so it does happen. For those who are hetero, or what we also have referred to as straight, 1 in 6 women who identify that way can also run the risk of being stalked, and 1 in 20 men run the risk of being stalked. So it definitely happens. Unfortunately, it's very common, but it also can occur by sexual orientation. And what I want to point out is for those who identify as straight, which means that they actually, if you are someone that identifies as a female and you are romantically attracted to someone who is a male versus a male who's attracted to someone who's a female, when you're heterosexual and you are straight, your chances of being stalked are still high, but they continue to increase by sexual orientation. Those who are identified as lesbian and gay, as you'll see, the numbers get smaller. And so unfortunately it becomes even more common, and it becomes even more common for bisexuals as well. So you'll see that, especially on the women's side. So it goes from 1 in 5 women to 1 in 3. And then it also still very high for men. 1 in 9 gay males and 1 in 14 bisexual males, unfortunately, can be stalked. 1 in 20 is still very high, but again, it just continues to increase. But 59% of male victims and 86% of female victims both are stalked by men, regardless of their sexual orientation. Most of them, unfortunately, are stalked by men, but that was taken from a sample of undergraduate students. So it's, representative of the population. It did not include a sample of the entire. It's just to show you, though, that when a study was conducted, it did show that many stalking victims are stalked by men, and that was regardless of what orientation they did have. And so it's out here. It does happen. The other thing is that it happens age groups. When it comes to age groups, young adults are the ones that are most at risk for being stalked. And not just young adults, but specifically 18 to 24-year-olds. They experience the highest rates of stalking. And so stalking, unfortunately, can occur. They can occur to us all, but especially young adults carry or experience the highest risk. So that means that this is happening on college campuses. That means that it's happening for young adults, that are, in the workforce. It's for any young adults ages 18 to 24, a lot of which find themselves, a lot of which are college age. So that's why I'm mentioning that it can happen on college campuses. And but also compounded with that, students with disabilities, LGBTQ plus students, Native American, Alaskan Native, biracial, multiracial, and younger students also carry a higher risk. So unfortunately, if a student finds themselves to be a member of multiple marginalized communities, their risk continue to go up. So if they have a disability, their risk of being stalked goes up. If they're a member of the LGBTQ plus community, goes up. Native American, it goes up. If they're biracial and multiracial, it also goes up. Not to mention if they are a younger student. When stalking does take place, where is it that students usually go? 92% of them will go to a friend or family, and 29% go to a campus resource. Unfortunately, that number is pretty low when it comes to the campus resources, I would say. And so there are usually a lot of campuses that are, usually ready to help, or some, unfortunately, may not due to different reasons, but either way, it's just an interesting statistic that only 29% are actually going to get a campus resource. Most stalking victims are going to go to a friend or family member, which can be great, especially when friends and family step up and try to help. It can also traumatize them again when they're not believed, just like with other violent acts that takes place. So it's always most helpful to believe survivors of any type of violence, including stalking, and try to help them as best we can, versus ignore them or re-traumatize them by making them feel worse and not believed for what is happening. But 92% do go to their friends or family seeking help. And overall, less than 40% of stalking victims, like we mentioned, do report to law enforcement, but 2 out of 3 stalkers pursue their victims at least once a week. So less than 40% of stalking victims are reporting this this type of violence, stalking, but meanwhile, it's happening at alarming rates. So 2 out of every 3 stalkers are pursuing their victims at least once a week. So not all the people that are being stalked are reporting it, but the ones that are committing the stalking are doing it at alarming rates. And 20% of stalkers do use weapons to threaten. So they're not just using like, information that they may have, personal property, or threatening to harm, others, their family members, which is words. A lot of them have weapons as well. So 20% means a whole fifth. 1 out of every 5 stalkers are using weapons to threaten or harm their victims. Stalking, if you did not know, however, is a crime under the laws of all 50 states, this District of Columbia, U.S. territories, and the federal government. So all over, stalking is considered a crime. So I know that, not everyone may be familiar with stalking. Some of us may talk about it more often than others, but it is absolutely a crime, and it does have its own month. Like I said, if we didn't already know that, but it is a crime under the laws of 50 states. And so, which is good to know for those who, are considering reporting it and all of that. It is a crime, but we can totally understand why many individuals might not feel ready or may have the desire to want to report it. Many people do not report for a variety of reasons. Sometimes, like we said, for fear, for the stigma, for the threats that they may be receiving. But if it is persecuted, stalking is a crime. And so there are punishments that can come with it. And so how is it that there's also other creative ways to be able to stalk? I talked a little bit about some of them, but using technology, we live in a digital world. I am literally talking to y'all about stalking today, and I'm using technology to do it. So I love it. I love the opportunity to be able to talk to a few of you and hopefully be in your living room or on your phone if you're tuning in, which I appreciate. But technology is in fact a way for us to be able to connect with others. But for stalkers, it's also an opportunity for them to be able to harass others. And so it's persistently, like we said before, sending unwanted communication through the internet, but it can also be, so that's actually something that we did touch on, but we also did. So it also could be using social media. It's also using, different platforms. It's also using, again, their email boxes. It's making pages about people. It's, putting pictures on there to harass them with fake accounts. And so there's many different ways that technology can be used and that stalkers can use it to then, stalk others. Posting threatening or personal information, like we said, on public internet forums. There has also been revenge porn that has happened. There has been pictures that have been shared. There's a lot of things that do occur, which stalkers use to harass, others and be able to cause harm to others and really damage individuals' characters. And really their whole, lives can be damaged because of it. Their characters, and sometimes in most cases their reputations. And unfortunately that might be what a stalker is after when they commit the stalking and the harassment. But also video voyeurism or installing video cameras that give the stalker access. I have actually seen that sometimes Airbnbs have also had cameras, unfortunately, that were catching that were installed. It sometimes has happened in hotels, and it sometimes happened in people's homes, without their knowing, that gave the stalker access to their own personal life. It has been placed, they definitely are illegal in bathrooms as well, but stalkers that find creative ways to be able to do it will also put them in places like that where privacy is absolutely being violated. It's also using GPS, like we said, tracking devices or other software to monitor someone without their knowledge or consent. Using any of those are definitely ways to also unfortunately stalk others and be able to keep eyes when they shouldn't be keeping eyes on them. But it's also using someone's computer or their spyware. So sometimes stalkers can actually use the individual's own computer against them and be able to track their computer activity or be able to spy on them, literally with a device that they own. It's their own device and they use it against them in that way. And like I said, phones. Sometimes we use our own phones to track our locations, and stalkers sometimes tap into that and use it to their own advantage. But with that being said, what to do if you are being stalked? The first one, when it says try to avoid the person stalking you, what we mean by that is it's not that simple, right? It's not as simple as, okay, I'll just tell the person to stop. We know that might not be the simplest way. What we mean is if you're able to switch up your routine. So sometimes stalkers take advantage of a routine. They may follow individuals to certain locations that they know, especially when that individual's schedule is very predictable. So if you do suspect that you're being stalked or are trying to avoid the person that is stalking you, one way to do so is to switch up your routine and to try to do that. but also have safeties in place. So, but before that, if you are being stalked through communication technology like email or text messaging, make it clear that you do wish to stop the contact, and have evidence of that you told the person that you wanted them to stop. But then also do not continue to engage. So some individuals think that they need to keep giving energy to that person and continue to tell them over and over again to stop texting them and to stop doing it. You do not have to do that. You can just tell that person once, I do not want to have any communication with you, and then stop talking to that individual. You can keep evidence though of any of messages that you continue to receive after you've told that person to stop, but you do not have to constantly keep engaging that person in a conversation, especially when that person most likely doesn't know how to take no for an answer and continues to do it anyway. But so you can continue to keep evidence. You can take screenshots of conversations, whatever might be helpful, and print out any emails, maybe the exchanges that you've had, anything that can help you build a case against that person. Because again, as we learn, stalking is a crime. And we know that not all individuals may be ready to report it, but for those who are considering it, this is just a tip that you can use. It's also informing family, friends, and supervisors, coworkers of the situation, having more people on your side who are aware, and then that way you can, as I mentioned, have a safety in place. So if you wanted to, make a safety plan, this is something that I have helped individuals with in the past. But it's if you ever wanted to talk more about that, if you didn't haven't heard of what that is, that's always something that's available. But the main thing is that you do have options. And I feel like whenever we talk about violence, a lot of abusers make victims and survivors feel that they do not have options. And then unfortunately, they have nowhere else to turn. We want to make sure that we tell you always, yes, you do. You do have options. You have other places that you can turn, and you are not alone. So we do not want you to internalize that message whatsoever. You do have people that are on your side, and you do have people that can help. If you have children, you can create a code word that lets them know when they need to leave the house or call the police if they're being stalked, maybe because it could be a parent, right? It could be the parent of the child. It could be, who's your ex. That could be something that you could do as well. But also consider reporting it if you do want the stalking to local law enforcement, because as mentioned, it is a crime, and keeping an accurate journal or log of the incidents connected to the stalking can also help. It can give you an accurate timeline of when things are taking place, but also becoming familiar with computer safety and ways to stay safe online always help. Sometimes it doesn't hurt to talk about when you're in a location after you've already left that location. I mean, you don't have to always switch up your entire routine to appease other individuals, but sometimes we've also heard that individuals will sometimes take advantage when they know that somebody's out of town. Like if you make a Facebook status saying that you're out of town, and then other individuals now know that you are not in your home, they may take advantage of that and go to your home while you're on that trip. So sometimes it just helps to talk about when you're not in your home after you've already returned home. So if you did go on a trip, posting pictures after you've already returned from the trip versus while you're gone. It's just an idea. It's nothing that you have to do. It's just a way to increase safety. And just given today's world and, given everything that we were talking about. And so, as mentioned, it is National Stalking Awareness Month. If you didn't already know that, there are still many resources out there dedicated to it. I know January is coming to a close next week, but we still have a great opportunity to still have the conversation. We wanted to make sure that you got this information before the month was over. And just because it's National Awareness Month in January doesn't mean that the conversation around stalking or any type of violence has to stop in January. It's just a good time to talk more about it, right? But not the only time to talk about it at all. But because it is National Stalking Awareness Month, we want you to know what stalking is. That's why we wanted to give you some information about it today. We want you to name it. So if you've seen any of these behaviors, you now know that it is stalking. You can call it what it is. You don't have to call it anything but what it may be, and you can also help to stop it, right? Because now that you've seen it, you can hopefully help. We would never want you to try to stop any kind of violent behavior on your own. There are resources, there are individuals that can help you. We would never want to tell you to just take that on by yourself, but we do want to help you know what it is, how to identify it, and put an end to it, and be able to put an end to it, hopefully, if you see it taking place with you or with someone you know. And so with that being said, I just wanted to thank you so very much for tuning in today, for indulging me in this, little corner about stalking and all of that. If you ever wanted to ask me any additional questions, again, as the co-host of the Miss Texas Show, you can find me personally at Santana Says with a little underscore at the end on Instagram. Santana Says, kind of like Simon Says, but it's Santana Says, my last name being Santana. And then you can also find the Miss Texas Show at Miss Texas Official, also on Instagram. That is the Instagram handle. But the Miss Texas Show can also be found on Facebook, on YouTube, like you finding us here now. So share it, make sure that you share it, all that. But also if you have any other commentary, if you have, any other questions, we always encourage it. We definitely want to be able to have fruitful and, healthy conversations. So if there's anything you want to discuss further, if there's other topics that you want to see more of in the future or what have you, we would love to be able to indulge in that. We also always are welcoming guests on our show. So if you also want to take part in that, please know that that is always an opportunity. But, like as mentioned, wanted to deviate a little bit from the norm, bring you some awareness. And then I'm also super excited that I was able to connect with you all. It's been a while since I personally have led anything on the show and had a chance to talk to y'all myself. And so I was really, really excited to have this chance. But again, any conversations that we can be having, any questions that we can be answering, and any issues that we could be addressing, we're open to them, right? And so we want to be able to have those conversations. We want to be able to engage in those efforts, and we want to be able to connect with all of you. And so however we can do that, we are always open to feedback on that. So again, as always, it has been a pleasure. It has been an honor and a joy, privilege, all of that. Because any opportunity to connect with you is one that I am grateful for. And so if any of this was helpful to you, dope, let me know. But also if we could be doing it better, I'm open to that too. Let me know. But again, thank you for this chance. Thank you for, everything that's been going on. And hey, it's January. Happy New Year to everyone. I hope your new year is already off to an amazing start. I hope you're already crushing all them goals. But even if you're not, please give yourself the permission to start over. Okay. Every day is an opportunity to start over. You can always, establish new goals. You can always move your timeline, give yourself permission to live life the way you want it. Nobody is in charge of your life but you. And so unfortunately, we know that there are many times where you do not always hear that message, but we are here to tell you otherwise. You have the true control over your life. You have permission to live your life the way you want, and you have permission to be happy, to find joy, and to live that joy however you see fit. So however that may be for you. And if today, I know that we did talk about stalking, if today resonated with anyone and they want to connect offline, we absolutely would love to be able to help. But we also want it to be known that there are resources that exist. We're going to make sure that we post them. There is the National Stalking Hotline, and there are many resources out there that exist. If you find yourself on a college campus, a lot of campus resource centers are there to be able to assist there. And so there are many resources that exist in different areas. And so we do want you to know that they're there, that they're for your use. And then again, you have them at your disposal, and that and they're for your availability. And so with that, I wish everyone well, wish you all the best in the rest of your week. And thank you for tuning in today. Thank y'all.